I live an area vein. Not enough people congratulate me on my bar mitzvah these days. Comedy? Is that an appropriate job for a Jew?
You then have to not touch for 3 years.
I mean, I wanted to throw the towel in about 600 times a week for salacious Bris chat. We'll see you.
Welcome to another episode of What the Falafel. Please, if you haven't already, just click subscribe or follow, whatever you need to do, because that's going to massively help. Today, I'm so excited. There is a guy that has written books, and he's a comedian, and he has recently had a circumcision, and we're going to find out all about it. It's Max Olesker.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
You can't beat that introduction. A lot to live up to.
There is. I feel like we've got a lot to cover.
Absolutely.
For anyone that doesn't know what on earth I'm talking about, could you briefly explain why you're here, what the book is about?
Firstly, I'd like to reassure the video watchers that this will be a safe for work presentation. I will allude to the topics that you mentioned, but we don't need to go any further than that. Yes, I've written a book. Well, I mean, look, we'll see for the Patreon extra subscribers or the OnlyFans. I'm not quite sure what the model is here, but we can talk. Your introduction was wonderful and entirely accurate. I'm a writer and comedian, and I've recently written a book. It's called Making the Cut: An Unorthodox Love Story. It talks about how I met and fell in love with a woman. Discovered that the only way we could be together if I were to convert to Orthodox Judaism. The kicker being that I was already Jewish, or so I thought.
I love that bit in the book. It's like, we met and I said I could make these Jewish jokes because I'm Jewish, and so we got together because I was Jewish, and then we broke up because I wasn't Jewish.
Yep, accurate.
How did it all unfold? I've read it, but please, let's pretend I haven't.
It all unfolded. It began at the Edinburgh Festival, where I was performing, and Eliana had written a wonderful play, which I went to see. She saw the Jewish jokes in my show. We got together. We realized we'd known each other. We'd sort of been friends at the Edinburgh Festival in previous years, and this was the year that the stars aligned. I grew up Reform outside of London in Portsmouth on the south coast. But my mum converted. My dad was Jewish, and my mum converted Reform. And this, as I would discover some months later, once we were already deeply in love, was something of an issue. And the book covers the 3 years in which, after lots and lots of soul searching and a kind of parting of the ways and getting back together and dating other people, all sorts of things, the book covers the 3 years in which ultimately Eliana and I went through the Orthodox Jewish conversion process together in an attempt to marry one another.
It was so intense. Like, I knew about the conversion. Obviously, you hear the stories, but I didn't realize how intense. I've got to say, I've read your book. Not only was I howling with laughter when there were points where you were comparing yourself, asking whether you were going to be circumcised and brought in on a cushion.
Of course. I should hope for, at the very least, a team of bodybuilders carrying me in on a giant cushion whilst I lie on my back with my legs wiggling in the air, screaming in confusion, as is... sadly not. It was just, I was on the train at that point reading this book, and I'm laughing. Not just like funny, I was laughing my head off. Oh, I'm thrilled.
I think it was that bit. There was definitely points where I was really laughing. And this older lady, she's just like, what are you reading? Can I ask? I went, well, I'm reading a book about a man who had a circumcision at the age of, it was 36 something. She went, ooh, okay. About being very, I think other people were watching, and it was very loud. And when the train is really loud, so you have to speak extra loud.
Yeah.
So I was sort of shouting at this poor, unsuspecting woman about your book.
Wonderful.
But it had me laughing. But it also, at the end, we'll cover, but I was just so in floods of tears throughout your book. It just covered every emotion going. And there's not a lot of books that do that. It's a fantastic read. And I haven't been told to say this.
No, this
was a brilliant read.
Thanks so much. I mean, I would say that the process that we went on covered all of those things. And it was part of the reason why I felt kind of compelled to try and communicate it to the world. It was such an extraordinary time in our lives. And it was, by turns, hilarious, frustrating, excruciating, heartbreaking, kind of
bizarre. I found it so bizarre that you were almost like you had to just perform for this group of men.
Well, the whole process is obviously, it is artificial because you become, as my uncle wisely advised me before I began it, you become a supplicant. You kind of you write in, and it's a slightly arcane process, but yeah, you are for the entirety of that process, which we had signed up to kind of with open eyes and open hearts and everything, but like your life is not your own. You are beholden to the vagaries of this process and letters you might receive, phone calls you might receive, and you can't, our lives are on hold, so we weren't allowed to. For those who haven't converted to Orthodox Judaism out there, there's a whole list of things that you need to do. There's going to, regular, very regular synagogue attendance, but that's kind of the least of it. We were in a relationship. We weren't allowed to so much as hold hands. That's kind of put on hold for the entirety of the process. Of course not. No, like it's such a it's such a painful thing. We were there, and then you have to move to, you eventually move to a more religious part of town, and you move in with a family. So I lived with a family for 8 months. And in fact, Eliana also did, because they kind of want the couple to sort of try and, in their eyes, kind of grow at the same time. They don't just want some person sent off on a intense quest whilst the other one is at home knitting, and then at the end you kind of come back. So they kind of want you to have similar frames of references, similar outlooks, similar hashkafa, they would say, the worldview. But yeah, so we were kind of found ourselves displaced, and then every sort of 6 months or so, you'd have these extremely intense meetings with the Beth Din, which is the rabbinical court, and you would need to show all of the the learning which you had accrued over the lessons that you were having in and around all your other kind of obligations and things, and obviously that kind of got more and more intense, and at any moment it could all fall apart, and then either your progress is sort of held up for another 6 months, or worst case scenario, God forbid, it all implodes, and then that might be it. Maybe the two of you can't find a way to be together. So anyway, needless to say, it was not an unstressful time in our lives.
For me, I just read it just thinking, how do you keep going with this? And you were scrutinised, as he was, again, in your comic style, you were scrutinised over wrestling photos.
Yes, again.
Was it wrestling photos or someone?
Yes, look. I was aware from the start I wasn't necessarily the most kind of straightforward case here. But as a comedian and former and indeed occasional professional wrestler, there were some incidents in which that kind of came to light. And it wasn't as though I'd been trying to hide that. Quite the reverse. I had been actively advertising this show. So in many ways, I was sort of, it's a shame that it didn't come up earlier. We had a show to sell out in aid of comic relief. But yes, we were called into an emergency meeting, and a grainy printout of a comedy poster featuring me in wrestling gear, topless, holding the comedian Rosie Jones on my shoulders, with her wearing a sort of a form-fitting leotard, and this was met with a great deal of disapproval.
How was it to keep it straight?
It was very easy to, because the stakes were so unbelievably high, but I did feel my brain slightly splintering into about 1,000 pieces at the strange surreality of it. It was unbelievably, life can be many things at once. They say Judaism is the religion that laughs with one eye and cries with the other. I was doing kind of both of those things kind of in the room as I was clinging to the chair, staring at the gigantic throne, which they have, and hearing the authority figure opposite me saying, comedy? Is that a appropriate job for a Jew? To say what I was thinking, which is that is objectively one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my entire life. And instead having to swallow that down and try and find other sincere things to say about the entire process, because you don't want, you want to go in as open-heartedly as you can. But it was quite an adventure.
Do you not want to throw the towel in at points? There were points I was just, I was getting myself so frustrated with these people that are dictating your lives and going about it really slowly. How did you keep going with the process?
I mean, I wanted to throw the towel in about 600 times a week. And and Eliana and I tried to, I mean, there were arguments aplenty, but we tried to make the time and space to sort of voice our frustrations at the process and like try and kind of vent and keep going. And maybe this kind of speaks to the strange combination of like high farce and tragedy, but my father was diagnosed with a terminal illness. He was diagnosed with dementia, and that happened midway through the process, which kind of took a already outrageously stressful, difficult process and then added another kind of ticking clock, because obviously, even though in so many ways, I mean, in some ways it's romantic, in some ways it isn't. I suppose the notion of doing this thing to be together is quite romantic, but the day-to-day of just being on the back foot and staggering, in the direction of what you hope is the finish line, except you don't quite know because you can't tell, is anything but. And there was this kind of extra pressure now, and there was also Eliana's unbelievably fabulous grandmother who we were both really close to, who was in her 90s and was very insistent that she wanted to be at the wedding. We were saying, listen, I mean, we're trying our best. We're trying our best here.
Absolutely. I did love the part where you had to move. I mean, I loved it. I wasn't living in it, but I loved reading where you had to move to the Chullet Pot.
Yes,
Hendon.
Indeed.
And I have to say, it has made me want to move to Hendon because it just sounds so lovely and everyone's communal and you get to choose between all the shores and you go to everyone's house and sounds like everyone makes a feast.
Everyone makes an absolute feast. I wanted to communicate. I wanted to communicate all of the things that I was feeling at the time. So there was definitely feelings of sort of stress and like dislocation and being separated from the world that I was familiar with, and all sorts of kind of oddness of. I mean, I was living with an unbelievable family. But for the thinnest of margins, who knows if we would have made it to the end. I was living with a wonderful family. Eliana, who was also encouraged to move to the Chullet Pot as part of the process.
Sorry, did you call it a Chullet Pot, or it is just?
It's been known as. I mean, I heard it referred to as the area and the Chullet Pot, the kind of the heart of this bubbling broth and stew of Jewish life, which it is. But we lucked out in that the families who kind of took us in, who became our de facto foster families, were and are unbelievably impressive, warm, generous people. And as stressful as moving for an unknown length of time into who were at the time a strange family's spare room, and me becoming their idiot 8th son, living in the attic and smashing my head on the eaves as I woke up each morning and falling out of the single bed and kind of blearily staggering to a new stiebel each morning as I try and get my bearings.
6:30 in the morning.
Yeah, of course. As stressful as that was, we did get to experience a sort of interlocking communal life which we hadn't experienced before. Even Eliana hadn't. She'd grown up modern Orthodox in kind of Primrose Hill. That was her world. And I'd grown up Reform in Portsmouth. So we'd both gone on journeys, both geographical and spiritual and theological. And yeah, we ended up spending a number of years in that part of town. And there is an incredible sense of welcome and like structural support and this sort of familiarity and familialness there that you don't get kind of anywhere else that I've experienced. From the people who would be fascinated each morning because I wouldn't be for the majority of the conversion process, laying to fill in the morning during Shachrit, which would kind of cause all sorts of next to swivel and people to run over. Normally, helpfully go, we've got a spare one here, and then I would inevitably go, no, well, you see, I'm not really allowed to at the moment because I
didn't realise that. I didn't realise you couldn't lay to fill in unless.
Indeed, well, in this process, it was deemed inappropriate until a certain point, at which point then it was inappropriate not to, and it was very opaque as to when that happened, but eventually I kind of found out. But from those people, the friendly faces in a kind of morning minion as I'm sort of desperately trying to gain my bearings and some sort of foothold in reality, to the innumerable lunch offers that you'd get the second you walked into a new shul on a Shabbat morning, and I would say it's still digesting some of the meals that I ate in Hendon. I mean that in the best possible way. There's just the quantity of food is not. It is a miracle. It's the closest I've seen to an actual miracle in this earthly realm, is how a woman with a job and like 10 children plus like who also volunteer, like the things that they do in a single day. I think it's genuinely more than I do in a year, and I like feel as though I'm busy, like I've got a lot on, but if I were
take it in their stride, they're never like, I'm so stressed, I've got all this on. It's just
no. It's calm, and they kind of float above it, and they also have like capacity for more. There is just this kind of the most efficient people I've met on the planet are Jewish matriarchs. That's my hot take.
It's very impressive. We've got a cousin, my husband's cousin. I think they've got 12 children, and she not only does she cook, but everything is delicious. And it's not just a meal. It's like I think you described, the salads come out, and then the main course, and then there's dessert, but there's loads of main courses. There's chicken done in 5 different ways, different sauces, different meats, it's just...
I feel so incapable. I've been to meals where there's more. It's not that I couldn't cook the food, which I couldn't. It's that literally left to my own devices with a pen and paper and a full day, I don't think I could even think of that many dishes, which is like pathetic. But they're just such a variety of things. And yeah, I feel as though it feels like there's some sort of like perverse algorithm going on or like equation whereby like the less time you have, the more efficient you are with it. So for the people with absolutely no free time, they are just unbelievably, extraordinarily capable at making use of every, I could have cooked 3 things whilst we were chatting here if I had their powers.
Oh yeah. What do you make?
Well, I don't know. My brain doesn't function. So I know. It'd be some sort of avocado-y salad, and then there'd be you'd have pickles and liver, and then that's
on the side. Pickles and liver.
Not in the same bowl.
I need to come to you for dinner.
Well, this is why it took me so long to get through the process. It's a kind of Sunday brunch situation where you have to unveil your Shabbat meal, and they're like, you don't want my avocado, pickles, and liver surprise?
I feel like this is a second book.
Yeah.
Becoming a kosher caterer.
Becoming a kosher caterer.
It's
Not a bad gig, to be honest. If you ever tried to order kosher catering, these guys do all right.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot can be said for kosher. Wait, I feel like I've gone off track. You're writing a second book on kosher.
Well, that's what we've workshopped that here.
Okay, I've got workshopping.
perfect.
But you've actually done not just the book, but we'll come back to more of the stories of the book because there's so many. Although I don't know, how do you interview someone that's written a book? Because you don't want to give away the whole thing, do you? You don't want to give away everything that's in your book.
Well, you could. I mean, I'm pretty relaxed about. I think it's not so much about the what; it's about the like how, and you can only really get that from properly kind of diving in. Like I think when I first started talking, I was like cagey about like, did Eliana and I make it to the end? But no, I'm here wearing a wedding ring. We got married. We made it to the end of the conversion. It did not go as planned in about 2 trillion different ways. And the book is kind of about that. So I'm happy to kind of talk about any and all of it. And then it goes, it kind of goes further in when you pick up the book, available at all good bookstores and on Spotify.
Do you know what? I had never told so many people to read a book so much. I think even I'm trying to convince one of my relatives to get it in their book club.
Oh, I will come and speak at your book club. 100%.
Well, even if there's just a handful of...
Absolutely.
You heard it here first. Okay.
Get me along.
Done. If they'll love that. Great. But you're not wearing a kippah and tzitzit, which I believe you... Well, I was going to digress and I'll come back to it. But anyway, you're not wearing the kippah and tzitzit because I thought you took that on. How does it work? You go from and then you're allowed to not be as frum as you were?
Well, I think in practice, you get to the end and you find your level. I did...
Jumpy though, what if someone's watching?
I mean, I think it's always sort of gradual, but I've noticed that even, people who don't go through the curious journey that I did, I spoke to lots of Jewish people along the way, both before when I was kind of overthinking whether or not it'd even be possible for me to do the process and embark on it. And then whilst around at dinner tables, often Jewish people who heard about the conversion would talk about their own Jewish journey, even within Judaism, not necessarily converting, but they'd be like, I was modern Orthodox, then I went Haredi for a while, then I went after Derech, totally non-religious for 10 years. Now I'm kind of, somewhere in the middle. And people, find their own levels. Sometimes things change when people have children or have a cataclysmic breakup or, there's always everyone's on a bit of a journey, I would suggest. And yeah, I don't know. I wore my kippah for a fair while, motzei conversion. But after, and then these days less so. You'll probably catch me on a Shabbat, Friday and Saturday. I'm likely to be rocking one.
Yeah, that wasn't me judging you.
No, not at all.
Where is it? Why not wearing it? But one thing I was wondering throughout reading it is you've written a lot about the Beth Din and the scrutinizing process. Is there any part of you that's worried they're going to find it? Did you have to get their approval for writing about it? Is it undercover? Have you broken? Is this like the essayist writes a book, when they just disclose things that...
As opposed to the green beret, it's the green kippah that I had to wear, and they'll take that away from me. Listen, I didn't seek to write a kind of like a polemic or a takedown, or kind of. I tried not to write out of kind of like bitterness or anger, like even though there's lots of frustration in there at the various times that I kind of.
No, it was more me being
felt
frustrated.
Oh.
It wasn't. To be fair, yes, just to interrupt you, it wasn't so much that you have been slating them. I think I just have put myself in your shoes. Just think I would have lost it.
Look, I
sort of start with that caveat because I'm sure if they've read it, which is no guarantee, it wouldn't be their favorite. It's unlikely to make their book club. Although I am willing to speak at any and all book clubs, and I have to set a principle. So you heard it here first. But look, I recounted my experience. I'm sure most people wouldn't want to. I'm sure most people would get to the end, and every conversion experience is different, and I'm sure most are far more straightforward than mine, but I think my experience also does probably speak to things that others have gone through and just haven't chosen to write a book about it because they're not writers and that's not how they communicate with the world. I think maybe, and this isn't just a deliberate teaser for the book, but had things not gone so sort of spectacularly wrong at various points, which I detail thrillingly in my book, then maybe I wouldn't have written about it. As it was, it kind of got to the end and I was gobsmacked. I was overjoyed that we'd got there, but I kind of had this experience just like in my head, and I sort of felt like in order to move on with my life and like, move on to creatively engage with the rest of the world and write new things, I sort of needed to somehow get this out. And here we are today. But there has been a worry, and it's like partly for me, definitely more for like Eliana and her family. I'm not trying. I desperately don't want to. I don't want to upset anyone. Like lamely enough, I don't want to upset the Beth Din. That's not the process. That's not the purpose of writing the book. It was about telling an unbelievably niche, specific, and not particularly relatable personal story, but hopefully through the prism of something which is far more understandable, which is a love story and a story of two people trying to make it work under complicated circumstances, which I think most people have been in one way or another at various kind of points in their life. So hopefully it resonates on that level.
I loved where it was you separated and then it's like, can I do this? Is this a thing? And friends of yours said, well, is that it? And can you maybe do this? Is this doable? Is it actually, can you be together? And then it was just, you took it in hand.
I had lots of long lunches with very kind and compassionate mates who were willing to sit through me kind of excruciatingly kind of passing the various possibilities and working out, what was possible and what wasn't. yeah, I received lots of support and advice. Some of it useful, some of it's not. My mate Callum was he was like, oh, Matt, I just don't worry about you getting circumcised, mate. I just don't know about it. And then at the end of the long lunch, eventually was like, all right, fine, but I will ask to see it.
I fancy see there.
Do you know what? We're long overdue. We're long overdue at lunch. If he asks, I suppose I'm duty bound. But
Maybe a private lunch.
yeah.
Don't want to just be whipping that out.
No, absolutely not. He can come round to mine.
Do you know what? There's also this conversation, and me saying that I've had you on the podcast has sparked a lot of what's the word? I was going to say conversion. No, circumcision questions. I found out a lot about people around me that have been circumcised and hasn't.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's a conversation starter. The Times, I'm very grateful to for serializing the book and running another piece that Eliana wrote brilliantly. But they very much focused on that element, which I understand they need a good headline.
But it's called Making the Cut.
It is, but it's also called An Unorthodox Love Story.
I mean, no one's you that bit.
I know.
Sorry.
But you know it. I mean, look, I wanted to allude to it, but I'm not happy to talk about it, obviously, because it was a big part of the panic for me. You know, my progressive parents hadn't opted to get it done when I was a kid. And so of all the various things to contemplate, that was like one of them. And it's quite a strange thing to be thinking about age 36. Well, I guess I was probably 33 or 34 or something at the time. But yeah, about having that part of your body surgically altered.
It's a big thing. I think I've got two boys, and the idea of me doing it felt barbaric. And I thought, who am I to do this to them? I just don't understand why people do it, why it's allowed. It was horrendous. And there's a lot of people that have very strong opinions for or against it. And how has it been with you releasing this book? Have you had a lot of people just thinking you're absolutely bonkers? Because I get it. It's a Jewish written book. There's a lot about Judaism. Do people that aren't Jewish think that this is absolutely nuts?
Well, never read the comments. You know, that's a watchword for the internet, really. But because the Times have gone so big on that, it was just lots of people who I don't think had read the article were just kind of opining furiously about various circumcision-related opinions. And like, fine, I completely understand and kind of sort of empathize with kind of all of them. I have thought and experienced every possible doubt and misgiving imaginable related to this procedure. I'm kind of one of the vanishingly few people in a position of being able to kind of lucidly discuss the before and after. However, you know, there are a small percentage of occasion in which it goes wrong. And if it had gone wrong for me, then, I mean, oh God, I listen. I'm not trying to give a sensationalist, and sensationalist quote for social media, but I'd have probably jumped off a bridge. So I totally understand. It's completely emotive, and it's very strange in lots of ways. It's also a kind of ancient tradition. It is primarily safe, and that's not by a narrow margin. Like, it is, the vast majority of times it is a straightforward, safe procedure. But it doesn't mean I wasn't terrified. And I ended up having lots of this was kind of during late COVID, I think. So you go on lots of walks with your mates because that was kind of all you were sort of allowed to do. You might have just about been allowed a coffee or something. I remember walking around, and a surprising number of my friends revealed verbally that they'd been done at some point, but it was normally due to some sort of medical reason. So they were all totally thrilled with the before and after, because they were, I was in discomfort before and then I wasn't. And unfortunately, I'd been perfectly happy with my general functionality. So all I knew was that something would be different, and I had to, hope that it would be as good or better, I suppose.
I don't want to ask too much, because then it will go.
That is for the Patreon. That you do have to subscribe. But for salacious Bris chat, we'll see you.
There's a whole other market for you. But generally, the whole of the Jewish stuff, not just the Bris. Is it called? Still called a bris where you're not a baby?
Yeah, bris milah, yeah, it's the same. It is exactly, it's the same. It's just a more involved procedure, but it is fundamentally the same thing.
Okay. Just without the pillow. Sorry, so far you went through it, but I'll have to tell you off camera. Where was I going?
All
the Jewish stuff. It's quite funny. Did other people just reading the whole process of what you had to do and reporting to the Beth Din and people that aren't Jewish, how have they taken your book when you've had to do non-Jewish press releases or not press releases or like podcast interview or anything where you talk about this? Do they just think this is utterly balmy? Or they're very open.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they do at some level, but they're also, generally civil enough not to go, what the hell, lunatic. But there might be some of that. I mean, the people that I've spoken to about it, the non-Jewish people I've spoken to about it, have been kind of captivated by the strangeness of the quest, but also have kind of been able to understand how I found myself. Pardon me. Have been able to understand how I sort of found myself on this journey. How, as seemingly illogical as the whole thing was, it also was the most logical step forward in my life. So they were obviously, fascinated by the rules and regulations of the conversion process, but also of kind of modern orthodoxy and the way that even things like keeping Shabbat happen in the modern world, which is a whole kind of different side of things. There's been, needless to say, a rich spectrum of responses to all of the surgical elements of it, from sniggering and laughing to total horror, and deep levels of sympathy for the stresses of the going no contact and these showdowns with Beth Din for with the nature of my soul kind of hanging.
So because you're going like this, and I'm going to say sorry.
The nature of my soul. Get your minds out of the gutter. And actually a sort of one of, I would say, the most unanimous response from non-Jewish people when they've heard about what it might mean to go, Shomer Shabbat and turn everything off and have this sort of 25 hours. And that, quite literally, everyone has responded almost enviously to that and been like, oh, I wish I could do that. To which the obvious, technical response is you could. But obviously that's not the case. As if we have the, mental power to just sort of moderate our behavior that easily. It's nowhere near that easy. So in some ways, having those, strict kind of guardrails in place kind of gives you the ability to do that. But yes, thus far, no one has just screamed in my face, "You're mad! What are you doing?"
Until now.
And here we are, bring them in.
We've actually got...
Thank you so much.
It'll be funny. I look forward to it. You have to let me know if you have been hurled abuse at.
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
But you've got brothers. Was there ever a point?
Oh, they hurled abuse at me, obviously, but that doesn't count. That's what brothers do.
But is there ever a point now that you're a bit smug because you're more Jewish than they are?
Absolutely not. No. I sought to kind of square the circle in my own life and bring my world, mine and Eliana's lives together, and also kind of bring our families' lives together. There, but for the narrowest of margins. Again, if I'd felt that Eliana or even her family had kind of sort of looked down on the Jewishness of my family and my family's traditions, I just don't think that would have worked for me. I don't think there would have been the willpower to make it work. I knew that, Eliana came from a family of two Holocaust survivors, her grandfathers, and their stories are so, to this day, kind of loom so large over the family, and their responsibility of kind of carrying on their traditions are so crucial to them, that as difficult as our early kind of conversations were, they felt that, this was the journey that was right for Eliana, and she felt it very powerfully. And although I didn't necessarily agree with it, I understood exactly where she was coming from, and from the point that I agreed to go on that journey, we wanted the same thing. But beyond that, happily, Eliana's family have never been anything other than joyously welcoming to my family. It's not, it's not that they I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I don't think it's necessarily that they see them as, I don't think they see them as non-Jewish. They just appreciate that they come from a different Jewish tradition and it's not their one. And it was really important for them to keep going and perpetuate and, you know, maybe one day grandchildren, you know, in that tradition. But no, absolutely not. I don't consider myself any more Jewish than my family, and thankfully that was never something that was asked of me in any crucial meeting situation, because I don't know what I'd have said.
What are you? Is in.
It didn't come up as a, you know, do you consider yourself more or less Jewish than your family? I think it's, you know, Judaism holds a spectrum of different traditions.
Your parents, and this is what I love, how you talk about them and the quirkiness of both of them and the culture, and just how it just sounds like you had a great childhood and you explored so many different things, and you joined the circus.
Yes.
And you became a pro wrestler.
Were my parents too permissive? Discuss when you're not hurling abuse at me.
But you definitely didn't grow up a typical North London boy.
I grew up in Portsmouth, which does not have a vast Jewish community, although hundreds of years ago it did. It still has a very lovely old shul. However, that was the shul that we didn't go to because it was the Orthodox shul, and my parents opted for reform, partly because, with a lot of love to that community, who I know and I'm great pals with now, they are a more senior community. And I think my mum basically thought that with 3 young boys going to hang out with a group of 80-year-old men, there wouldn't be a great deal of connection there. So she signed us up for the South Hampshire Reformed Jewish community, which is actually a lot more work because we would live a 2-minute walk from the shul, but instead we would drive hours into the vague depths of Hampshire to go to some kind of ad hoc kind of service or festival or something. And there wasn't one regular synagogue, or, you know, the whole thing was but it kind of, you know, fit my parents' vibes, slightly more sort of haphazard, slightly more kind of homemade, but very soulful and full of joy. And they're both, I grew up, you know, with an artist mother and a kind of writer and playwright and lecturer in English and drama father. So that was a world of sort of books and music and art, which also informed a lot of my Jewish identity. My dad was full of Yiddish folk tales and Chelmish kind of stories and songs and riddles and ballads and puppetry and that sort of thing. So that was my kind of grounding, along with you know, cheder and all that jazz when I finally got round to bar mitzvahing. The Sunday ritual I somewhat resented as I hit adolescence, but I think you're kind of supposed to.
Yeah. I don't know anyone that loved cheder. I think especially if you don't, so I didn't go to a Jewish school. So it was like all the days of the week at school and then Sunday school effectively.
Yeah.
Thanks for this.
Yeah, absolutely. I had that exactly that. And it was getting in the way of important, you know, play rehearsals and wrestling training and probably circus school, you know, all the crucial things a growing boy in Hampshire wants. But it was also kind of, I was there by choice. I'd chosen to have like my parents, you know, I was the eldest of 3, and my parents were obviously, as all parents probably are, making it up as they went along. So they hadn't decided exactly how, you know, at what level the Jewish identity would kind of be part of who I was. They just, you know, they let us know that our relatives and, you know, my father's family, this was part of our heritage, and these are the festivals and these are the things that you should, you know, understand because this is part of who you are. And then when it got to bar mitzvah age, I'd been going to this community for a few years, so I had friends who were a bit older, so you start to go to, you know, the bigger boys' bar mitzvahs and the bigger girls' bat mitzvahs, at which point it was put on the table as an offer. You know, you can do this, but it's not just the party. You've got there's responsibilities and rights. It's about kind of growing up and becoming a participating member of the community as an adult. And yeah, I went for it.
Good for you, Mazel Tov.
Thank you so much. Not enough people congratulate me on my bar mitzvah these days, so I'm glad. It's very rude. I put so much work into it. And I can't remember anymore. But come on.
That was impressive. Wow, I can't even remember it.
That's all I've got, but it's
But what a voice.
It's horrible. Thank you so much.
my
Now you can translate it for us.
yeah, that was Max going through adolescence.
Do you know what it means?
Oh, sorry, I see what you mean. It's a lot to do with livestock. It's a lot to do with livestock, guys. It was, you've got to kind of do a speech about it, and you've got to kind of extrapolate a kind of Dvar Torah sort of drosha. It was a little bit dry. I think I got there in the end, but
I always felt like I was at your bar mitzvah then.
Friendship House, the local Chinese elders community centre where I had it.
Ah, nice.
It was nice.
Mazel tov, thank you. And so you went from strength to strength, and you created this. But you have carved out an incredible career. You write for Esquire magazine. You were on Peep Show. You've done, but actually, were you on the last? Have I heard you were on the last episode of Peep Show?
I was on the. What I was. I appeared in the final scene of Peep Show that was ever filmed chronologically according to the shooting schedule. So it's not the last scene in the whole show, but it was literally when the crew of Peep Show gathered for the last ever time. So Peep Show being one of my favourite sitcoms ever, I was honoured and overjoyed to have snuck in with a little cameo role. I'm officially in Peep Show. They cannot take that away from me. And I had a scene opposite Robert Webb. It was a very short scene, but I was slightly nervous because it was this great, wonderful show, and it was quite surreal to be part of it, having watched it for years. Then I got there and realised that you can't actually see the performer that you're acting against because of the POV view. So instead of looking at Robert Webb, I'm just looking at a cameraman who's sticking his lens directly in my face, which is very different from normal TV acting where there is a level of eye contact. Then just before we started to roll the take, my mouth is dry. The DOP, the director of photography, says, "Excuse me, guys, I've just got an announcement to make. I'm going to retire after 50 years in the game, and it's been a real honour." And people are crying, and we're like, "I can't wait to get." I can't wait to get to the after drinks and we'll all raise a glass. So people are kind of itching to. This is the end of the line, and it's just on me to nail this take of this thing. And this one, my voice is completely screwed. Then David Mitchell, who's not on the scene, not supposed to be there, just shows up because it's the final thing, carrying a whole load of champagne. He's like, "Hello everyone, here we go. Well, can't wait to go to the after drinks." I'm like, okay, then Phil Harris, who's then the head of Channel 4, shows up. The pressure is on for me to kind of deliver this in the most alien environment. And I mean, I don't nail it, but we stagger through. And then I attend the Peep Show after party, fully stay till the end, fully have drinks with absolutely everyone. Absolutely, I don't think I outstay my welcome. I think there wasn't really a welcome, but I sort of vibed through that and happily spent the day there because it would have been too awkward of them to just ask me to go home. But it was a wonderful time in my life, and yeah, it's been an eclectic career. Say I'm the number one Esquire contributing editor / has appeared in Peep Show /
You're number one contributing editor.
No. I'm adding all these slashes together to make up my narrative double act sketch comedian / professional wrestler / author of a memoir titled "Making the Cut: An Unorthodox Love Story in the World."
I love the colon very specifically.
Thank you.
But I really enjoy those careers where it's not just one thing. You've just done lots of different, and it makes for good. Oh my god! I completely forgot we meant to have a food delivery.
Oh really?
Yeah, kosher food delivery.
Oh great!
I've got it here. I'm sure it's coming. Can we get the food in? You know what? I was talking so much, I completely forgot. And I'm like, we're getting towards your entire life. Hello. Joel's from Falagan.
Hey.
Kosher food.
What a time!
I don't even know whether that fits in with the podcast at all. I was just going on and realised that we've got to feed you.
This is incredible.
Have you ever seen an episode of What the Falafel before?
I was listening to it earlier on, but I didn't get to the food.
We have a food delivery because what is Jewish podcast or Jewish anything without food? So you have to feed our guests.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Falafel.
We got falafel.
Or what the falafel?
Of course.
From Balayan. Have you been to Bournemouth?
No, I'm not aware of Balagan.
Balayan, Bournemouth. They do really good, like hummus, shawarma, burgers.
I love it.
I thought usually this always flows. I always feel like we talk about food. I'm like, we've got food, and now we're just talking about wrestling.
We were doing loads of food earlier. We can kind of bring it back.
We'll just edit this in, and then there'll be food on the table and off the table. Is that more falafel? Is that more falafel?
That is more falafel, yeah.
Ooh.
Sisters.
Is that
Siege? Is that?
I don't know. As it's good.
So try it. It all looks amazing. They're about to find out.
Yeah. Joel is stepping in as food deliverer.
So now you're going to come and eat with them? No. I'm going to go. So no, nice.
Thank you very much.
Worried that you might have panicked. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I've cut off enough already.
Good.
That would be a while to catch up. Thank you so much. I moved the book so we don't get up. I just waved this and point at the camera. We have to get stuck in. We have to read you. You can't pronounce.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much.
Well, for anyone that hasn't been to Balagan in Bournemouth, you need to check them out. They're in, obviously, Bournemouth. And if you say what the falafel, you get 10% off your bill, which is very exciting. So get down there.
So good.
You must have seen a lot of kosher, explored a lot more food places when you moved to Hendon.
Oh,
Absolutely. Sushi Haven is kind of my diet.
Oh, they used to do one in Edgware. I'm sure. Was there one in Edgware? I'm sure I used to go to Sushi Haven.
Sushi Haven, it's the real deal. It's really good stuff.
But you said that you were living off a lot of takeaways because you were living in someone's house and you were a guest. There was a lot of kosher pot noodle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kosher Kingdom was down the road, so it was... and I was working such long hours, and there was kind of... So I couldn't necessarily cook at that time due to the kosher, So, but I certainly could go and make myself a cheeky kosher pot noodle and eat it in my bed whilst staring at the ceiling and contemplating my life choices.
Life. How long did it take you? I'm sure you said it in the book, but I can't remember. Was it 2 years or the whole process from start to finish? Bearing in mind it didn't seem like they actually registered you for about a year.
Yeah, the whole process was a three-year situation from writing the first letters, which is not that long for the... I mean, it was a long time for me, but in comparison to other people, it has gone on for far longer.
But considering that you were in a relationship, you then have to not touch for 3 years.
Yep.
I mean, you need an award for willpower. That's incredible. But good for you. Good for you. I think the words cut it, but it's impressive that you went through to the end.
The surreal memory of wandering around a park in Hendon next to one another, like a meter away from one another, each just holding one of the other's gloves because we couldn't hold hands, was a very bleak but memorable vignette from the depths of that winter. It's not an experience I'd wish on anyone, particularly that element.
You got to the wedding. Was it the most magical day? And were you just like, this is it? It's like the finish line, right? Was it the finish line? Tell me it was the finish line.
Yes and no. As the book details, there were some slightly extraordinary terms and conditions which were kind of added to the conversion process. But in lots of ways it was. In the majority of ways it was. And it was, I'm sure everyone kind of has dreamy, insufferable stories about their wedding, but it was everything we could have possibly hoped for and more. It was this beautiful, gorgeous autumn day. It was sort of sunny like it was the summer. It was this stunning glass house in the middle of Devon, and we'd painstakingly made this kind of, fully kosher kitchen in the middle of Totnes, which had never been done before. Will probably never be done again, frankly. And it was wonderful. We built this gorgeous chuppah in amongst the apple trees in this sort of orchards place, and my father was there, and Eliana's grandmother were there, and it was just dreamy. It was an unbelievable weekend. We kind of did a Friday night Shabbat dinner with our family. and the Jewish guests who were staying over for the whole weekend. And then we did a kind of schmoozy Saturday where people came and ate delicious food and falafel. I'm sure if we'd known about Balagan, we'd have given them a call.
Well, now you go for your...
For my second wedding.
Not appropriate in this life.
Well, bear it in mind, you gotta stay practical. And then we made it to the chuppah, in which, as per Eliana's request, I burst into tears when I saw her and spent the day happily weeping.
Oh, so nice. I think I might have mentioned this before on the podcast. I was so expecting. We did the bedecking at the ceremony. So I wanted it to be like everything on the film.
Yeah.
You know, as I'm walking down the aisle and he sees me, but I was walking down, the rabbi had told him to turn the other way. So I'm like, oh, you're literally not looking at me
Come on.
at all. What is happening?
We had a big back and forth about whether to do the bedecking in the aisle or privately. In the end, I'd assumed we'd do it in the aisle. That was as a performer, I'm like, this is what you give the people the whole thing. Yes. But in the end, we chose to do it. We chose to do it privately, and it was an unbelievably special moment. I think you get a different thing. I still remember fondly when I've been to mates' weddings where they do the bedecking in front of everyone. You get to see it and kind of be a part of it. Yeah. But the moments in the room with my dad and Eliana's grandma and Eliana and the rest of our family. But it was a wonderful precursor to the absolute chaos that followed for the party of the next,
I have to remember to if I can ever turn back time to do the bedecking.
No. Well, listen, my second wedding, I'm gonna get Balagan food. Yours, you can do the bedecking over there. It's good to just mix around,
We love you, Eliana. Of course. You've had this. When the food came, I was thinking you did this whole article where you had to get hench, right? For an article.
Yeah.
And I saw pictures of before and after. Was that wasn't Photoshop? Was that actually to manage to track down the article? You actually managed to get proper hench?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how long did it take you?
3 months, 12 weeks. Mainly involves not eating exactly what I'm eating right now. That's the key.
Oh, damn. I was working on my holiday body. Shame.
That is the key. No shame.
What do you have?
I mean, it is so boringly true that 80% of it is diet. It's about counting your calories and your macros and making sure you've got enough protein and going moderate on carbs and all that nonsense. But and training. But I've long been interested in tracking kind of men's relationships to their bodies. I think is an interesting subject, which I write about not as an impartial observer, but as a man with a body. And I think it's changed a lot over the years, and it's continuing to change. So I'm writing about male body image, the relationship to their faces increasingly as well, because now it's shifted from just this sort of what was a few years ago a kind of relatively recent new desire for men to get hench, which I ended up writing about and ended up kind of doing this immersive piece and kind of doing it. And then I did it 10 years later again. So last year, I've lost track of time. Pardon me. I think it was last year. 10 years later, I kind of came back to the same personal trainer and we discussed how it all moved on. Pardon me. And the next thing I think is men's relationship with their faces changing.
Really?
My theory is that the Pandora's box has been opening for a while, and that women have been subject to kind of body image. They've been pummeled with media basically for as long as humanity has existed, of how they should look, how they should alter themselves to look like a certain ideal. And for quite a long time, it just didn't apply to men because men had ensured that they didn't receive any of this marketing and advertising. And in the mid 20th century, you could just sort of be if you're a fat, there's nothing wrong with being fat, but if you were just a businessman, you'd just be sort of high status because you were. That was it. You didn't need to think about how you looked. That would be kind of beneath you and totally irrelevant. But increasingly, men are subject to the same impulses. So, and I think it began with your body. And there was, decades ago, the cultural critic Mark Simpson introduced the concept of the metrosexual, which seems very dated now. But at the time, that was men are wearing moisturizer and hair gel. Are they gay? You know, which is how other tabloids ran with it. That wasn't what he meant at all. He's a very incisive kind of cultural critic. But yeah, it was about men starting to kind of basically be subject to marketing about how they look and that changing what they do. And then that gradually seeped into things like stuff like Geordie Shore or Jersey Shore, things where it started to be about how your like body looked. And whereas men in the 90s, like the new lads of the 90s, wouldn't have cared about if you watch men behaving badly or whatever, just, you know, having a beer belly and just sort of being a general slob was absolutely fine. And then suddenly that changed and guys sort of my age or a bit younger were getting into caring about how their bodies looked. And previously that was maybe something that only really professional athletes would have trained for that reason. But now it's about the aesthetic of your shoulders versus your hips and your chest and your abs and the specifics of how your body looked. And now increasingly, you know, people are interested in their hairline or their teeth or their tan and the Botox and things. You know, it's become, for better and for worse, a much more kind of egalitarian world where aesthetics and tweakments are doing the rounds and everyone's getting them. Have you seen the thing about Jim Carrey being a clone?
No. What?
A man who is almost certainly Jim Carrey appeared on an awards ceremony the other day and accepted an award. But because he looks a little different from Jim Carrey, there are the two schools of thought are either he's had some work done recently and looks rather different to how he used to look, or it's an impersonator, or if you want to get to the wildest end of it, he's a clone. So that's a rabbit hole for you to go down.
I have to look this up.
Check it out.
Carrey, a clone.
Yeah, Jim Carrey.
Interesting. Clone. Where are you placing your...
He's definitely a clone, guys. Open your eyes, sheeple.
Mad. Absolutely. Just interesting where the world is going. And talking of where the world is going, what's on your agenda for the book and your career? Tell me your life.
Oh, my word. It's like my internal monologue. I wish I knew. I've got lots more fun book stuff coming out. Please do follow me on social media as various book-related things come to the fore. And likewise, and I don't want to jinx any of them, but some fun stuff with Clash of the Comics, which is the show in which comedians become professional wrestlers and somersault into the ring to do battle.
What you're doing more of, like, you're gonna be wrestling.
Yeah. That should. We have plans for that. So that was the self-same show that the Beth Din produced the printout of me and Rosie Jones and so on and so forth.
So you're doing more of this.
Yeah.
Yes, that took place last year at the Hammersmith Apollo, which was great fun, and we've got more plans afoot. So
Are we inviting the Beth Din to attend?
they are very welcome to attend.
Good.
Tickets are available. Well, they're not at the moment, but they will.
When are you doing this?
We're still hammering out the fine details. So
We'll follow you on Instagram.
yeah, at Max Olesker and at Clash of the Comics.
Perfect. And we'll find out more and come and see wrestling and read your articles and read your book and just get more of you from every area of life.
Every area of life.
Do you know what? Good, muzzle tov to you for going through everything and just the resilience and everything that you took on for this. For love. For love.
For love.
Well, you're not allowed to say you did it for love, right?
For love and falafels. For love, life, and falafels.
That's the next book.
Absolutely.
The love and falafels. I love what we said that we were going to do it about.
It was food related. We're getting
We'll
somewhere.
have to watch the edit and go back and find out what we just said that you're like.
I think we're onto something. Definitely. That'll be next to my career.
And I have a wedding gift for you.
No.
Oh,
No way.
Jewish or a converted Bris gift. No way. I've got a mug and David for you.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you so much.
Real blessing. Thank you so much. Mazel tov on your wedding. When was your wedding? September? No.
It was a couple of years ago. So.
Oh, well, I'm reading everything news. I feel like I finished your book and you've just got married.
Well, you know.
For all those years ago.
I'll take it.
And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been so lovely to chat to you. I love that you're holding up your cigar like we're ready. Absolutely. And we can all find you, Max Olesker, Instagram.
Perfect.
And read your book. Read the book. It was brilliant. Thank you so much.
Cheers.